Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to create a scatter plot and line of best fit on the TI-83 or 84 calculator. So I'm going to grab my calculator, and the first thing you want to do is go to your y equals button, clear out any y equals here so that you don't have anything in your y equals. The next thing you want to do is you want to go to your stat, and you want to make sure that when you hit enter on edit, your lists are all cleaned up. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do is enter my data, and I have some data here that if you were in my class, we did this in class. If you weren't, you can just see what my data is and go ahead and enter it. We're going to enter the length into list 1 and the weight into list 2. So go ahead and enter that into your calculator. Alright, once you've got the data in your list, you want to make sure of two things. You want to make sure you entered your data accurately, and you want to make sure your lists are both exactly the same size. Once you've done that, you can set up your stat plot. You need to hit the second key first. So hit second, go to stat plot, hit enter on plot 1, and you want to turn your plot 1 on. So I call this guy Blinky. You want to make sure Blinky is on. So hit enter on to activate that. Arrow down to the scatter plot you want, which is the very first choice. That's already selected, that's the default, but I'm going to hit enter. That's how you activate it. And then because we put our data into list 1 and list 2, you want to make sure your X list is list 1, your Y list is list 2, and my favorite mark is the box. If you select the crisscross, that's going to show up where you have a data point. If you select the very tiny dot, you're going to see very tiny dots where you have points, which are kind of hard to see. Once you have that set and you have your data in, you can hit Zoom 9. Zoom 9 should show a nice scatter plot for your data, and for this particular set of data we have a linear regression. What we're going to do next is we're going to fit a line to the scatter plot. We want to do some calculations on our statistics. So again, we're going to hit the stat button, we're going to arrow over to calculate, and we're going to go down to linear regression because our data points were lining up. If your data points don't line up, if they look more like a parabola, you're going to want to use quadratic regression. But because our data points look linear, we're going to use linear regression. Go ahead and select that, hit enter, and then hit enter again. Now, when you do this, you get an equation. Your A, we're going to round to 2 decimal places, is 4.35. So where you have y equals ax plus b, you want to replace the a with 4.3, and let's round correctly, 4.36. The x is your independent variable, so leave that x, and then we're going to add the negative 156.14, and of course you can turn that into a minus instead, plus of negative. What we're going to do next is we're going to put that equation into our y equals. So go ahead and go to y equals, arrow down so you're on the y1, and then type this in, 4.36. The x is right here next to the alpha button, x plus negative 156.14. Go ahead and hit enter. Now, when we hit graph, we're going to see our scatter plot and our line show up simultaneously. That's good. It looks like our line runs right through our data points. That's what we want. If you hit the trace button, you're going to see up here it says P1. That means your Spider-Man is tracing the plots. If I move Spider-Man around, he's jumping from plot to plot. Spider-Man is not on the line. If you want Spider-Man to be on the line, you must hit the arrow up or the arrow down button, and you'll notice it changes to Y1. That means Spider-Man is now on your equation instead of your plot. Now if you move Spider-Man, you'll notice that he rides along the line instead of jumping from point to point. And that's what we want, because the next question says, predict the weight of a sand shark whose length is 75 inches. So we want to get Spider-Man up to 75. Now if you move Spider-Man all the way up here, let's see, that takes a long time. Can we type in 70? We can type in 70. The weight of a sand shark that's 70 inches is 149.06. Can we type in 75? No. Our calculator says invalid, and the reason why is because our window doesn't go that high. Anytime you get an error, always go to it. That will take you to the problem. The calculator is saying this is the problem. This is too high. So let's adjust our window so that our x's can go up to 75. So hit window, arrow down to your x max. Right now your x max is 73.2, which is not high enough. We need to go past 75. So let's set that to 77. Now hit graph. Your graph looks almost the same, but now when we trace, notice we're on plot 1, hit down, now we're on the line. We can tell Spider-Man to go wherever we want, so we can go to 70, or now we can go to 75. So, a sand shark that's 75 inches long, according to our linear model, should be about 170.86 pounds. Okay? Now, the other thing we can do, since we're still on our line, we can move Spider-Man around still, or if we want to know how heavy a sand shark that's 65 inches long, we can type in 65. As long as we're on our line, it will use that line to predict the weight of a sand shark that's 65 inches long, and that weight is 127.26. Okay, so quickly to review. When you're putting data into your calculator, you're going to go to Stat, Edit. When you're using data that has two variables, you're going to put them into List 1 and List 2. To adjust your plot, to make a scatter plot, hit Second Stat Plot. Always just use plot 1. Don't turn a second plot on. That'll get a little bit messy. Make sure that your plot is on, you're set to a scatter plot, and you're using List 1 and List 2. To do the regression, you want to do Stat Calculate and have your calculator use List 1 and List 2 to get an equation of a line, which is the linear regression or choice 4. You hit Enter, Enter, and it will give you the values that you should plug in for A and B. Once you write that down, which we did over here on the paper, you then put it into your y equals. And remember, if you hit Zoom 9, that will automatically zoom in on your statistics. Practice these keystrokes. The more you practice, the easier it'll get. I hope this was helpful.